Welcome to Into the Words, a podcast from the Highlights Foundation Retreat Center. Today in the cabin is our 2019 visual artist, Angela Dominguez. Angela's artwork from her picture book, Sing, Don't Cry, will be on exhibit at the Foundation for the entire 2019 program year. Welcome, Angela.
Thank you.
So we're really excited to have your exhibit opening this weekend at the Foundation. And I remember last year when I heard you speak about Sing, Don't Cry at the SCBWI event. It's such a warm story about your grandfather, about family. And also, the more I've read the story and I keep looking at the artwork, it's such a powerful story for young readers who are kind of searching for their voice, maybe in difficult times.
Mm-hmm. Well, the idea was that I always admired my grandfather, and it was one of my mother's kind of like poking ideas, you really should write something about him. But I never knew how to form it into a book until I had a friend tell me, well, his life story kind of reminds me of that song Canta No Llores, which a lot of people know, and it's like one of the most famous songs from Mexico. Mm-hmm. And it literally means sing, don't cry. And when I thought about that, it really resonated with me, and I thought that's like the perfect anthem for my grandfather. Mm-hmm. And my grandfather was someone that overcame several obstacles in his life. Like in the early 1900s, he moved walking from a small town to Mexico City because they needed to leave during the Mexican Revolution. And then when he was 9 years old, he lost his leg in a bus accident. And he always had a wooden leg, but he was always this very happy, optimistic person. He came in and stayed with us when my parents were divorcing, and he walked me to school every day, even though he has that wooden leg, and that never stopped him. So once I had that vehicle of the song, I knew how to write the story, and it came to me very quickly. Mm-hmm. And I used old photographs, old videos of my grandfather for the inspiration for the images. And I also had just moved to New York at that time, and I was thinking that how it can be lonely when you move to a new city. So I was drawing on some of those experiences as well of how to form the entire book.
Yeah, I love that. And I love the way that you included some photographs as well. So there's an image where I think you've drawn a photograph, but then the end papers, those are actual photos, family photos.
Yes.
And how did you select which ones were going to make the cut for the book?
That was tricky. Yeah. I mean, I don't have an overwhelming amount, but I probably have a dozen, maybe 2 dozen. So I was trying to highlight the fact of him as the radio artist, the program that he had with his friend, and then also thinking of that time period when he came to visit. So I want to include some of those pictures from when I was 5 years old, a little bit younger. And it just kind of, when I saw them together, it worked well.
And I think in one of the images, and for people who have the book at home, they could find this, but you're holding, the little girl in the book.
Yes.
Is that you?
Yes.
Yeah, is holding a picture as well. Was that your grandmother?
Yes.
Yeah, that's lovely. And I think if I remember, there's a picture of the two of them on that spread, and then there's the picture that you're holding.
Yeah.
Yeah, really nice. And you've brought some people with you to the exhibit. Who did you bring along?
So I brought my mom because she's been a big supporter of my career my entire life, and I know she wanted to be there because this is her father. It's particularly meaningful to her, and she cries every time she reads a story, which is always really gratifying. Hopefully she won't cry too much on Sunday. And then I brought my boyfriend, Kyle, because he's been a great supporter as well.
Great. So have they helped you with your talk a little bit for Sunday?
Not yet. I think with this sort of thing, I usually kind of keep it internal until I'm ready to share it.
Okay.
Unless it's memorized.
Okay.
Then I have to repeat it out loud.
Wonderful. Well, that's great. I think for us, hosting a visual artist is a relatively new part of the programming at the Foundation. But what I love about it is it's this visual reminder of purpose for the whole year. So when I look at Sing, Don't Cry, it kind of sets an intention maybe for this year about voice.
Right.
And I keep picturing kind of the idea of a chorus in the woods where we are many voices. And when we're soloists, the story is amazing. But then when all of those stories come together, there's a richness to it, like in a chorus. And I love the thought of entering the barn every day in 2019 and seeing that visual representative of that idea. And that's through your work. So one of the things that we talk about a lot at the foundation is mentorship and kind of helping our visitors find their voice. And people are always asking about voice and what is artistic voice. And you were here as a mentor last year. You're coming back to summer camp, and that's a big week of mentorship for us. So just kind of thinking along those lines of community and mentorship and finding your voice, were there people in the industry who helped you as you were starting out in your journey?
I definitely can think of a few. Lewin Pham definitely helped me when I was this point where it's like I had illustrated some books. My agent had just started her own agency, and I just didn't know her as well at that point. So I didn't know what to do, and she was the one that told me, like, these are the strongest pieces in your portfolio. Here are some art directors and editors you should try to meet with in New York, and you definitely should stick with Linda Pratt, which is our agent. Because she's the only one I've worked with at our agency, and she's fantastic.
Yeah.
And then Linda definitely helped me in terms of writing, because I was just illustrating initially. Again, that dissatisfaction of not really getting the projects I was excited about, and I realized a lot of it was because I wasn't creating the stories, and then also getting better manuscripts as well. So she's the one that helped me with my initial first stories, like Let's Go Hugo. She helped me workshop that story. She saw the potential in the character and said, there's probably a story here. And then she also helped me with Stella with the first rounds when I was still envisioning it as a younger chapter book. So she's been that great, like, editorial ear for me as well. And then now it's less about the craft, but like Meg Medina, she lives in Richmond, and so she's been kind of a mentor with getting your voice out there and opportunities. And even Grace Lynn has told me, like, she's recommended me for things. So it's nice knowing that I have now these people kind of watching out for me. So it comes in all different forms.
I'm so glad that you mentioned Stella Diaz just off the cuff there, because when I was at home talking about who I would be speaking to today, my son is particularly connected to Stella Diaz. We read Stella Diaz Has Something to Say, which isn't the one on display, but it's definitely one that's close to our hearts at home. And I think I shared with you after we finished reading it, he asked if it could stay in his bedroom, because typically children's books in our house end up going back out to my office, especially as I'm getting ready to meet with you. But he was adamant about keeping that story. And I said that I would be speaking with you this morning, and he said, "Oh, can you ask if there's more Stella?" So inquiring minds want to know, is there more Stella coming our way?
I'm working on the second one right now. It's called Stella Diaz Never Gives Up.
Okay.
And in the second one, she's summertime. It's kind of that common feeling of being a little bored because you're not in school, and then also feeling like you want to do something important and big. And hers is through going to the summer camp, and she also discovers that the oceans are in crisis. So she becomes a little bit of a advocate for it and forms her own group.
That's great.
It's fun to see the character evolve, especially since it's somewhat based off of my own experience.
That's what I think that's one thing that you see so much in your work, that there's a lot of you in it, which is great, I think, to see that. Are there any other projects we should know about that are coming out?
One is a book with Candlewick that I'm illustrating. It's called Kaya and the Bees, and this girl is afraid. The character Kaya is afraid of bees in the book. And she realizes how important they are to nature, and she overcomes that fear. And then another one I still haven't started at all. It will eventually come out, I think, in 2021. It's called Baby Burrito. and that's about welcoming a new baby to the home.
Wonderful. Wow. Well, that's really great. We'll keep our eye out for those. So before we end, we kind of want to tie things back to all those great books. Here at the foundation, we hear about books all the time, and it increases our to be read pile, but there's always room for about 20 more on that. Do you have a few books that you would recommend for
Well,
us to?
I recently read Front Desk by Kelly Yang. That was moving, and I just stayed up all night reading that one. I think it was part of it was the immigration process. Even though my story is very different from hers, I could relate to aspects of it and or know of other people that kind of went through similar experiences. So it was very touching and powerful to see that in a book format.
Yeah.
I also read The Partner Inheritance.
Yeah.
And that was incredible because that has such a powerful history to it, but at the same time, what I loved was it was like a classic mystery. You know, it felt like it could have been like a Nancy Drew story.
Exactly.
And so that was just so much fun.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. That's great. So this was just a wonderful start to our new podcast, Into the Words, here at the Highlights Foundation. So thank you, Angela, for joining us. And of course, if people don't get to visit with you this weekend, they'll get to visit with your work when they come to the foundation at any point in 2019. So thank you.
Oh, thank you.